Hey there, wonderful people. It's Aura Pampa here. Hope you're doing well. Today, I'm going to show you my process for editing voiceovers. That's basically narrations. We're going to be using a free piece of software called Audacity. I'm going to put links to that in the description. It's basically an audio editing tool. I'll also include any other useful links such as the ACX Check plugin, which is quite useful for making sure that your audio settings are on point. So things like loudness normalization and making sure that you're recording at a project rate of 44,100 Hz. So there are a few things to bear in mind when you're recording audio for voiceovers. For example, you want to record in mono, you want to record usually at a project rate of 44,100 unless the client requests for 48,000 Hz, in which case you do so. But in general, we use 44,100 Hz, also known as 44.1 kilohertz. Okay, next you want to make sure that your loudness level, so the RMS level, is between minus 23 dB and minus 18 dB, very important. Then you also want to make sure that the maximum level of audio, so the loudest part of your audio, should not exceed minus 3 dB. And finally, your noise floor should be at minus 60 or below. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to be working with this audio track. I got this script from a website which just had a 15-second e-learning voiceover script you could practice with. So this is what I've got to practice with. I'm going to start with. Now, as you can see, there are some spikes here. You can see this double spike here. That clicking sound was made with my mouth. And then this was made by snapping my fingers. But the good thing about this, or the important thing about this, is being able to see these spikes visually. That way you know exactly where the issues are and exactly where you need to go to make any changes, because that's where the errors are, as opposed to having to listen to the whole track before you know where the errors are. You can't always do this with all sorts of recordings, but if you're the only one recording, you can actually do this and it'll save you a bit of time when it comes to editing. I actually edit from the back rather than from the beginning because I know the latest segment of the recording is more likely to be the right one. Let me show you what I mean. So here, let's listen out for what we need. We'll discuss the hierarchy of control measures that can be used to eliminate hazards from the work process. Okay, so that's what we're trying to hear. We're looking for We'll discuss. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert a cut point here. There are two ways of doing this. Either go to the edit menu, then clip boundaries and split, or you can use this shortcut, which is either Command I or Control I. Okay, then remember we're listening out for We'll discuss. So let's come here. In this module, we'll discuss. Okay, so we'll discuss happened here. So I'm going to insert another cut point here by pressing Command I on my computer. Okay. And then I can just, because I have two cut points here now, so on the left and on the right, I can select that place by double clicking it, and then just press the backspace key or the delete key to delete it, just like that. Next, let's listen to what this point is. In this module. So I heard in this module. Okay, so I need to insert a cut point there, pressing Command I. Then I'm going to go further back and try and listen to where I can find in this module. In this module. Okay, so it's about there, thereabouts. So what I'll do is insert another cut point and then just double click and delete. Okay. Up to now. Okay, and we can see there's another 2 points here. So I know some editing needs to happen here. Let's listen to what this sounds like. Okay, so we're going to record this script from voices.com. Okay, so I know that bit isn't meant to be there. So let's listen to this. Up to now. Okay, let me go back to the script from voices.com so you can see what we're working with. Okay, so it starts with up to now. That's the beginning of the script. So I know that's where we want to begin. So I'm going to actually leave a bit of silence at the beginning and insert a cut point here. Then I can double click this part because I know we no longer need that and press delete. And just like that, we've finished cutting our audio, and now what we need to do is make it sound better. First of all, the levels are quite low. We want to make sure that the loudness of the track is between minus 23 dB and minus 18 dB. That's about standard. And then the next thing we need to do after that is reduce the noise, the background noise that happens. So just the sound that you hear when you're not speaking, and also make sure that the volume of the track never exceeds minus 3 dB. Okay, let's do that. So in here, what I can then do is just select the whole track by clicking select here. Then go to Effect, Loudness Normalization. Make sure RMS is what's selected. And then over here, I like to choose 22.9. So it's just within the limit to avoid any clipping. Okay, wow. The tracks have gone really high, which is fine. But this, I'm pretty sure, is going to have some audio that's above -3 dB. For example, this here. And maybe this. Let's see. So to check for this, we can use a tool called, or a plugin called ACX Check, which I downloaded from the internet, but you can also get it. It's free, but it's very, very handy because it does those specific checks for you. ACX stands for Audible Exchange, and basically it's a marketplace where voiceover artists and book writers, so authors, can meet and create an audiobook together. So they do have some specifications for their audiobooks, but their specifications are, I would say, industry standard, so it's worth following them. Anyway, let's click on that. Okay, it tells me, okay, this is too high and this is too low. The RMS level is too low and the peak level is too high. So let's adjust that. First, I'm going to adjust the limiter. I'm going to adjust the peak and use something called a limiter. So if you go to the effects menu, scroll all the way down, you'll see the limiter here. And here, what we need to do is set a limit. So I'm going to put the limit at -3.1 dB and click OK. You can see the top bit here reduced a little bit. And now I'm going to apply loudness normalization again to try and get it up to a good level. Okay, this time I'm going to put it at -22.8. So it's going to get a bit louder. I know it's going to clip again. Well, it didn't quite clip, but it was above the limit of -3 dB. So we're going to have to do something about that. Again, we'll go back, we'll go to the limiter and apply that. I think this should be fine now. Ooh, almost. But before we go on doing any more on here, what I want to do next is reduce the noise. Let me play it for you so you can see what I mean. You hear that sound? That shh sound? Yeah, we want to remove that, or at least not remove it, but reduce it. Now, what I always make sure I do is that at the end of every recording, I always make sure I leave quite a bit of room tone, it's called. So the silence when you're not speaking, just so that the computer can recognize it as noise and then use that for the noise reduction. So what you need to do is select a portion of the audio that's just silence. Yeah, then go to Effect, go to Noise Reduction, then click on Get Noise Profile for the computer to get the noise profile. Once you've done that, you want to select the whole track, then go back and select the same thing, noise reduction, but then we're going to work with step 2. And here we've already selected the full track that we need to work with, and now we're going to just reduce the noise. This is what it's going to sound like with the noise reduced. Up to now, you've learned how to identify workplace hazards and how... Notice that the noise was a lot lower this time. So if I click on OK. Okay, so there's a bit of extra there that I'm going to delete. Okay, now if you listen to this part again, you notice that the noise is a lot lower. Barely audible. So I'm going to remove this little blip here because that shouldn't be there. And I tend to leave about 0.5 seconds of room tone at the beginning of the recording. So I'm just going to leave that there. That's roughly 0.5, I think is fine. Okay, now let's check the track again. So ACX check. Okay, it seems like everything is where it should be. The peak level is less than -3 dB. The RMS level is between -18 and -23 dB. And the noise floor is less than 60 dB, which is the limit that we usually would want. So we're okay with this file. Once we have this file, I would say listen to it again and also listen to it whilst looking at the script to make sure that there are no errors that need to be corrected for. So let's do that. Let's look at the script again, just right behind here. And let's play this. Up to now, you've learned how to identify workplace hazards and how to report them to your supervisor. In this module, we'll discuss the hierarchy of control measures that can be used to eliminate hazards from the work process altogether. Okay, that sounds fine now. Now I can remove the extra room tone that's not really needed anymore at the end. So I'm just going to do that. Select it and then press backspace or delete to delete that bit. Okay, great. So now that we have this track, we're good to go. Next thing we need to do is name the track. So let's call this e-learning 15S for e-learning 15 seconds. Okay, and we're now going to save this file. But the way to save it in Audacity is an interesting one. You don't use the save option because that would only save the Audacity project and not give you a file you can work with. What you need to do is export the file. So in order to export the file, we would go to File. Don't use Save Project, instead use Export, and choose Export Multiple. It gives you more options to choose from, rather than choosing any of these. Now that we're here, we need to make sure we choose the right format to save the file in. For this particular project, we want to save it as a WAV file. So I'm going to change this from MP3 to WAV. And then you want it to be 16-bit PCM, so we've got that selected. Don't worry too much about the settings on the left. That you don't need to worry about too much. Now, here's an interesting bit. You can click Overwrite Existing File. So if the file name already existed and you want to save on top of it, you could do so. But bear in mind, this will overwrite a file with the same name in the folder you've selected. However, if you don't want it to do that, you can untick this box. We can leave it ticked for now. Then we're going to use this option, which is using label and track name to name the files. Now, we've already named the track over here. So it's going to call the track e-learning 15S. For e-learning 15 seconds. Okay, now I'm going to click on export. I do have some default settings put in here, but you could choose to put whatever you want in there for metadata for when you're playing the audio in a different player. Anyway, just press OK. In a matter of seconds, your file has been exported. Now let's check out the exported file. So here's the file. Now let's play it back to see it's been saved properly. Up to now, you've learned how to identify workplace hazards and how to report them to your supervisor. In this module, we'll discuss the hierarchy of control measures that can be used to eliminate hazards from the work process altogether. Fantastic. There you go. You've exported your file. Now, one tip I'll give you is that if you have a client that you're working with, I would suggest that you do not send the file by email, just because the files can get really big and clog up your recipient's email, which you don't want that. It can be annoying. So what you need to do instead is use a file sharing service such as Google Drive, Dropbox, WeSendIt, WeTransfer. There are different ones available. And what you do with that is you upload the file to that location and then you send your recipient the link to that file, either using that service directly or just copying the link. What that then means is that they can download it straight to their computer and it doesn't have to clog up anybody's inbox. And once you do that, you can send it to them, they can listen to it, and if they're happy, they go ahead and use the file. If they're not, they can tell you to do a few pickups, which means that you need to redo some of the recording. And then everybody's happy. Well, I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also leave me a comment to let me know what you'd like me to cover next. And if there are any gaps in the video that you'd like me to talk about, just put that in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to those. I'll also put useful links in the description. All right, until next time, bye.